people are mad at Tekken 8. People are mad at video games, all the time now. But Tekken 8 is now on the list, I suppose, because it doesn't have a Waffle House stage. No, people are, there's some people really mad about the microtransaction aspect of Tekken 8. That stuff ended up getting added after the fact, and now they are adding a battle pass, I suppose, with this patch as well. They're calling it a fight pass. And you can complete missions to unlock various items, according to what they said in their stream about it. I don't know. I'm reading over, like, there's been a few news stories about it and stuff, and Video Games Chronicle is a good kind of wrap up of it. And it's like, here's people complaining about it on Reddit and saying a free-to-play model in a full-price game is beyond scummy. I personally purchased or pre-ordered the Ultimate Edition believing I would get all the DLC content with the Season Pass. They were dishonest and lied. I don't know. The thing that they probably didn't do is they were not upfront about how that stuff was going to work. And so there were probably some people that didn't think it was going to have a battle pass. Because Street Fighter 6 has a battle pass, and like they've had a billion of them. Like, it feels like they're rotating through those passes in like a heartbeat. I don't know. It feels like that it was obvious that they were going to monetize differently with Tekken 8 even prior to release. So I don't know, man. It's so you read some of these quotes and they're just like, they feel so out of step with how all video games are nowadays, and that's kind of the that's kind of a weird hill to die on in 2024, I suppose. But I don't know. I think about it in terms of like, what are you gonna do differently? And I don't mean that in like a standoffish, like, what the fuck you gonna do? But like realistically, and this is similar. This kind of goes hand in hand with what we were talking about last week with a lot of the kernel level anti-cheat stuff. And boycotts and things of that nature, kind of consumer action around the way video games are monetized or protected, or whatever aspect of it is making you the angriest this week, I suppose. Like, what's the plan, right? I don't think boycotts stick. We've seen, like weird attempts at that time and time again. Obviously back to old Modern Warfare 2, that was the big one or whatever, but like, don't pre-order a game. Don't pre-order games. Like that was always the one that was the one that I always kind of advocated for, was like, don't pre-order video games. Read and find out if it's actually good or not. And though in some cases, if you are particularly set off by the idea of microtransactions and battle passes and stuff like that, then launch day reviews are not necessarily going to do you any good, because they waited until season 1 to roll out this stuff. And so I guess like ultimately a lot of it comes down to, what do what will you do about this? What is the, if you complaining about it online while the game is doing great numbers and while they see, so ultimately it comes down to like, are a lot of people just fine with this, which seems like it is generally the case, with a lot of other, like the Dragon's Dogma stuff we talked about last week, where it was just like, hey, yeah, Capcom has done this with their single player games. I was reminded that like achievement rates, like people don't play the games they buy a lot of the time. And, when you go look at achievement rates for finishing a game and all of that, like people don't finish their games. And so, that kind of like seeing those stats back in the day, like this was kind of like in the Mass Effect 2 or 3 era, was really like wrapping my head around just how few people, like how many people buy games and don't finish them, or don't, in some cases, don't even get to, like, you go look at the achievements for like, here's the first major plot point in the game. It's 10 hours in, it's 5 hours in, whatever it is. And seeing that, like, oh, they don't have that shit. I look at that stuff and go like, well, you know, if people, there are people out there that have more money than time, and they want to have a good, quick experience with the game, and you know, that's it. Kind of changed a lot of the ways I thought about like easy modes, and even some of these like kind of time saver, quote unquote, microtransactions. Where it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like sometimes, like people just don't fucking have time for this shit, and if those people want to like get extra money to spend in the thing, like I'm like, yeah, I get it. Sure, I guess. Like I don't want to do that. But if people want to do that, that doesn't hurt me any. You have to kind of look at it in terms of the games themselves, I think, and you have to look at it in a game by game basis to a certain extent, because you have to think like, okay, did the transactions they offered in this game result in them balancing the game in favor of you needing to buy them? That's the actual problem. That would be the actual problem. If it was like, hey, like they sell these things in Dragon's Dogma 2, also the grind rate for getting this stuff is insane, then you'd be like, well, okay, now they're like, you see these things and go like, okay, they're kind of pushing people into these microtransactions because the rate of accrual on these currencies is unreasonable. And that is where people are at with the Suicide Squad stuff right now, where Suicide Squad Season 1 started, and you can buy the Joker, I guess. But you can also grind the Joker out, if you know what I'm saying. But the amount of missions, the number of things you would have to do, well, I mean, one of them is play Suicide Squad, which is maybe already a bridge too far. But assuming you're willing to do that, then the number of missions they want you to do and the things they want you to do to get to the Joker on the Battle Pass are actually like, it's way too much for what you get, in a way that people are saying like, clearly they want you to spend the money. Clearly they don't want you to do this. Like, that's a problem. But the mere offering of that stuff, it doesn't offend me at this point. I think because there are so many different types of people playing games. For me, the one that was always ridiculous was the easy fatality thing in Mortal Kombat, where you could buy tokens that would let you just hit a button to do a fatality instead of knowing the motions. And it was just like, ugh. Because of what fatalities represented in the Mortal Kombat franchise early on and the way they are meant to be secret, that one was always one for me that I was just like, this one just sucks because that stuff's not even hard to do per se. Or I guess I would say, if that stuff is really hard for you to do, I imagine a lot of that video game is probably pretty hard for you to do. And why are you having a good time with it? Maybe, I don't, so that one was always really weird for me. But like the, Resident Evil 4 on modern platforms has all those like unlockable, like, here's a weapon, go present this for a free weapon upgrade at the shop or whatever, like, that you can buy. And Dragon's Dogma 2 has, similar, hey, unlock the more currency that you can use to buy pawns, even though you never really need to do that if you're playing the video game. They will let you do that, and then you could hire a higher level pawn that would maybe, make the game slightly easier for you or something like that. I don't know. Like, at some point, it's like that stuff to me seems dumb because I play games to play games. In a general sense, generally speaking, I play the video games because that's the part that's the good. I'm not gonna like, it's like, let me skip to the next cutscene so I can see these awesome, you know, like that's not why I'm here. But I think the thing is, you know, I think people need to figure out kind of where their line is and if they're willing to stick to it and what they're willing to put up with. Because I think when you look at where the video game industry is at these days with this stuff, they're rolling full steam ahead. And I don't think there's enough players out there that are in the fight, so to speak, to result in some kind of large boycott or whatever, you know? So I guess what I'm saying is I don't know how you stop this. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be stopped across the board. I think that there are some games where you have egregious situations and you go like, okay, clearly you have turned the dial too far in the direction of microtransactions. You have some games that are, you know, happy medium, not turning it far enough. And then you've got that are on the cosmetic setting where it's just like, like buy it or don't. I think it's fun to play as Snoop Dogg in Call of Duty. And to me, that is something resembling money well spent in the grand scheme of post-purchase transactions. I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? But at the end of the day, you know, they're going to keep doing that stuff unless something changes and it becomes bad business for them to do it.